In 1900, New York had more electric cars than horses. That's right. But before we tell the story, comment below. Which car do you prefer, electric or combustion? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Today, Tesla is seen as revolutionary, but 120 years ago, you could already buy an electric car that could travel 100 miles on a single charge. That's right. While most Americans were still riding horses and carriages, a silent revolution was quietly echoing through the cobblestone streets of major cities. 1 out of every 3 vehicles on American roads wasn't powered by gasoline. It was electric. The future had already arrived, and then mysteriously vanished into the shadows of history. The dawn of the 20th century was a time of unprecedented transformation. America stood at the crossroads between horse-drawn tradition and mechanical innovation. While the Wright brothers were still dreaming of flight, inventors across the nation were already solving the mysteries of electric propulsion. The world of 1900 to 1920 was far stranger and more advanced than we dare to imagine today. In those pivotal decades, electric vehicles didn't just exist. Yet somehow, this electric dream faded into obscurity, buried beneath the roar of combustion engines, and lost to time. Picture the bustling streets of New York City in 1900, amid the clip-clop of horse hooves and the occasional rumble of steam-powered contraptions. A peculiar sight glides silently past elegant carriages, moving without horses, without steam, without sound. These were America's electric vehicles, and they represented an astounding 38% of all automobiles on the road. This wasn't some experimental curiosity confined to a few wealthy electric cars had become the vehicle of choice for discerning Americans who valued refinement over raw power. They offered something that gasoline cars simply couldn't match: dignity. No cranking handles that could break your arm, no explosive backfires that startled pedestrians, no noxious fumes that stained clothing and poisoned the air. The electric car was the gentleman's automobile, the lady's preferred mode of transport, the future made manifest in polished brass and gleaming batteries. The dominance of electric vehicles in those early days reveals a profound truth about technological progress. It doesn't always move in straight lines. Sometimes the future arrives early, only to retreat and wait for the world to catch up. The visionary from Iowa. In the workshops of Des Moines, Iowa, during the summer of 1890, a Scottish-born chemist named William Morrison was tinkering with an idea that would transform American transportation. Morrison wasn't content with horses, and he wasn't impressed with the crude steam carriages that occasionally appeared in his city. He envisioned something entirely different: a carriage powered by the mysterious force of electricity. Morrison's creation was a marvel of Victorian engineering. His electric wagon could carry 6 passengers in comfort, gliding along at 14 miles per hour without producing a single puff of smoke or drop of oil. The vehicle was essentially a horse-drawn carriage that had transcended its origins, transformed by chemistry and physics into something approaching magic. When Morrison's invention made its debut on the streets of Des Moines, crowds gathered in wonder. Here was proof that the age of the horse was ending, and the age of the machine had begun. But Morrison's achievement represented more than just mechanical innovation. It embodied a uniquely American optimism, the belief that science and ingenuity could solve any problem, that the future was not something that happened to you, but something you could build with your own hands. Between 1900 and 1920, owning an electric car was a declaration of sophistication and social status. These vehicles were the smartphones of their era, cutting-edge technology wrapped in elegant design, accessible only to those who could afford to live in tomorrow. Electric cars weren't just transportation. They were symbols of progress, refinement, and environmental consciousness. The appeal was undeniable. Electric vehicles started instantly with a turn of a key. No dangerous hand-cranking required. They operated in perfect silence, allowing passengers to conduct conversations without shouting over engine noise. Most importantly, they produced no emissions, meaning that well-dressed passengers arrived at their destinations without the stench of gasoline clinging to their clothing or the black residue of combustion staining their hands and faces. This golden age of electric motoring reveals something fascinating about human nature and technological adoption. Sometimes the most advanced solution isn't the one that survives. The qualities that made electric cars superior in 1910, their quietness, cleanliness, and ease of operation, are the exact same qualities that make them appealing today. Progress, it seems, sometimes moves in circles rather than straight lines. Ferdinand Porsche's electric dreams. Long before Ferdinand Porsche became synonymous with legendary sports cars, he was a young Austrian engineer obsessed with electric propulsion. Just like Ferdinand Porsche, you too can become a legendary friend of the channel. Simply subscribe and leave your like. In 1898, at Hust, 23 years old, Porsche created the System Loaner Porsche, a revolutionary electric vehicle that would establish his reputation as one of Europe's most innovative automotive minds. Porsche's electric car was a masterpiece of engineering, unlike other vehicles of its era, which awkwardly adapted horse carriage designs to mechanical power. Porsche built his machine from the ground up as an electric vehicle. The result was something that looked genuinely futuristic: clean lines, efficient proportions, and a silence that bordered on the supernatural. The vehicle could reach speeds that impressed even skeptical critics, and its reliability was exceptional for the era. The young Porsche understood something that many of his contemporaries missed. Electric power wasn't just an alternative to gasoline engines, it was potentially superior. His early experiments with electric vehicles would influence his entire career, instilling in him a deep appreciation for engineering efficiency and innovative design that would later manifest in some of the world's most celebrated automobiles. By 1906, the Mercedes brand had already established itself as a symbol of automotive excellence. But few people today realize that some of the most impressive Mercedes vehicles of that era ran on electricity rather than gasoline. The Mercedes Mixed represented the pinnacle of electric vehicle development, combining German engineering precision with the clean efficiency of electric propulsion. These electric Mercedes weren't just luxury transportation for wealthy individuals. They served as taxis in major European cities and even competed in racing events. The sight of a Mercedes electro-taxi gliding silently through the streets of Berlin or Vienna represented a vision of urban transportation that was decades ahead of its time. Passengers could enjoy smooth, quiet rides, while taxi drivers appreciated the reliability and low operating costs of electric power. The success of electric Mercedes vehicles demonstrates how advanced electric technology had become by the early 1900s. These weren't experimental prototypes or novelty items. They were serious commercial vehicles that competed successfully with gasoline-powered alternatives. The fact that such sophisticated electric vehicles existed over a century ago makes their subsequent disappearance all the more mysterious and tragic. Oliver Fritschl's impossible journey. In the annals of early automotive history, few stories are as remarkable as that of Oliver P. Fritschl, an American entrepreneur who refused to accept the conventional wisdom about electric vehicles' limitations. While critics claimed that electric cars could never travel long distances, Fritschl was quietly developing battery technology that would prove them spectacularly wrong. Fritschl's electric vehicles could travel up to 100 miles on a single charge, a range that impressed even gasoline car owners, whose vehicles often broke down or ran out of fuel on longer journeys. But Fritschl's most audacious demonstration came in 1908, when he embarked on an almost 3,000-mile journey from Denver, Colorado, to New York City in one of his electric automobiles. The cross-country trip was a sensation that captured national attention. Newspaper reporters followed Fritschl's progress as his silent electric vehicle crossed mountains, deserts, and plains without producing a single puff of exhaust. The journey proved that electric cars weren't just suitable for short urban trips. They could handle the most demanding travel challenges America had to offer. Fritschl's achievement stands as testament to the advanced state of electric vehicle technology over a century ago. In downtown Chicago during the 1910s, a revolutionary service was quietly operating that would unseem out of place in a modern Tesla service center. Pioneering entrepreneurs had established battery swapping stations where electric vehicle owners could exchange depleted batteries for fully charged ones in a matter of minutes. This early battery swapping service solved one of electric vehicles' most significant challenges: the time required for recharging. Instead of waiting hours for their vehicles to recharge, drivers could simply pull into a swapping station. The existence of such advanced infrastructure over a century ago reveals how seriously Americans took electric transportation in those early days. Entrepreneurs were investing in permanent installations, trained technicians, and inventory management systems to support electric vehicle adoption. This wasn't just a passing fad, it was a comprehensive ecosystem built around electric mobility. The process was efficient, reliable, and surprisingly sophisticated for its era. Now, what could be more reliable than your like and subscription to the channel? Subscribe, turn on notifications, and leave a like. The decline of electric vehicles in the 1920s wasn't the result of a single catastrophic event, but rather the consequence of multiple converging forces that gradually shifted the advantage toward gasoline-powered automobiles. The transformation began with Henry Ford's revolutionary assembly line production methods, which dramatically reduced the cost of gasoline vehicles and made them accessible to middle-class Americans for the first time. Simultaneously, Charles Kettering's invention of the electric starter in 1912 eliminated one of gasoline cars' most dangerous and inconvenient features, the hand crank that could break bones if it kicked back during engine startup. With the turn of a key, gasoline cars could now start as easily as electric ones, removing a significant advantage that electric vehicles had previously enjoyed. The discovery of vast oil reserves in Texas flooded the market with cheap petroleum, making gasoline an increasingly economical fuel choice. As gasoline became cheaper and more widely available, the operating cost advantage that electric vehicles had once enjoyed began to evaporate. The 1920s witnessed an unprecedented expansion of American infrastructure that heavily favored gasoline-powered transportation. Gas stations sprouted along newly constructed highways, creating a network that made long-distance travel practical and convenient for gasoline vehicle owners. Road improvement projects connected distant cities with smooth, reliable routes that encouraged automotive exploration and commerce. This infrastructure boom created a powerful feedback loop. As more gas stations appeared, gasoline cars became more practical for long-distance travel. As gasoline cars proliferated, demand for more gas stations increased. Electric vehicles, which required different infrastructure and couldn't travel as far between charges, found themselves increasingly marginalized by this expanding network of gasoline-focused services. The infrastructure choices made in the 1920s would shape American transportation patterns for the next century. Roads, gas stations, and automotive service networks were all designed around the assumption that gasoline engines represented the future of transportation. Electric vehicles, despite their early promise and technological sophistication, couldn't compete with this comprehensive system. By 1930, the electric vehicle revolution had effectively ended. The silent, clean automobiles that had once dominated American streets disappeared into obscurity, remembered only by a few automotive historians and engineering enthusiasts. Yet the technology never truly died, it merely hibernated, waiting for the right moment to emerge once again. Throughout the 20th century, small companies and individual inventors continued to experiment with electric propulsion. They understood that the fundamental advantages of electric motors, instant torque, quiet operation, zero emissions, hadn't disappeared. These dedicated pioneers kept the flame of electric vehicle development alive through decades of gasoline dominance, slowly improving battery technology, motor efficiency, and charging systems. Their persistence proved prophetic. As environmental concerns grew, and petroleum resources became more expensive and politically complicated, the advantages that made electric vehicles appealing in 1910 began to matter again. The circle of automotive history was slowly closing, bringing electric vehicles full circle from forgotten curiosity back to cutting-edge technology. The rise and fall of early electric vehicles offers a profound lesson about the nature of progress and innovation. The future doesn't always unfold in predictable patterns, and the most advanced technology doesn't always prevail. Sometimes superior solutions must wait decades or even centuries for the right combination of economic, political, and social conditions to emerge. Today, as Tesla charging stations replace gas pumps and electric vehicles once again capture the public imagination, we're witnessing not the birth of a new technology, but the resurrection of an old dream. The silent, clean automobiles that our great-grandparents drove through the streets of early 20th century America have returned, enhanced by a century of technological development but fundamentally unchanged in their basic promise. The pioneers who created America's first electric vehicle, boom, William Morrison, Ferdinand Porsche, Fritz Lee, and countless others were not just inventors and entrepreneurs. They were prophets of a future that took over a century to arrive. Their vision of clean, quiet, efficient transportation was not wrong, it was simply premature. The next time you see a Tesla gliding silently down the highway, remember that you're witnessing not just modern innovation, but the fulfillment of a promise made over a century ago. If this journey through forgotten automotive history has surprised you, consider subscribing to explore more untold stories from our past. Share your thoughts in the comments, and help us continue uncovering the fascinating secrets that connect yesterday's dreams to today's reality.